Trying to dissect the exact thought process behind the ideas of the modern progressive far left is nearly impossible. From bizarre gender identity pronouns to trigger warnings, not much of what they stand for makes sense anymore. But I wanted to touch on one aspect of the current far-left thinking because I think it's rooted in something we can more easily identify and once pointed out becomes obvious to see in many of their other outlandish social justice crusades. The bottom line is progressives always want to feel like they are saving the world. And don't get me wrong, trying to save the world can be a great thing. But the problem is, progressives don't actually want to do the work to save the world. You see, solving the world's real issues takes a significant amount of work. Not only that, it can be frustrating as progress is often slow and setbacks are the norm. But progressives have figured out a way to circumvent all those pesky problems and get right to the part where they pat themselves on the back for being such virtuous people. What they do instead is inflate a smaller issue or a non-issue into one that they claim is going to destroy the world, or at the very least, destroy America. Then they propose some poorly thought-out law or way of behaving they claim will solve the fake problem they invented. A perfect and recent example is climate change. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently stated that within 12 years the Earth will be destroyed by climate change. Now on the surface that seems like a preposterous claim, yet many on the progressive left jumped right on board with her doomsday scenario. Now I'm not even going to bother getting into an argument over how silly her claim is, as that's not the point here. The point is how progressives overstate a problem, or even invent a problem so they can be seen as the savior of the world by fighting to solve a non-problem. Transgender rights is another perfect example. Many progressives called the transgender rights initiatives that they spearheaded a modern-day civil rights movement. First of all, this is completely offensive to the actual civil rights movement that occurred in this country. Trans or gay people were never denied any freedoms such as the right to vote or to do business where they please. In fact, gay and trans people were never denied any rights at any time. The only issue they had to deal with from a legal standpoint is marriage, and that was mostly due to existing laws that were written for people of two separate genders. Marriage laws weren't specifically written to exclude gay or trans people despite what progressives would have you believe. But once again this goes back to my original point. Progressives want to take something that is barely an issue, or an issue that affects such a small segment of the population, such as trans bathroom rights, then pretend like they are all the reincarnation of Martin Luther King Jr. himself by fighting for these so-called rights of the underrepresented. Estimates put the number of trans people in America at about 0.06%. Yet this was a major part of the progressive platform in 2016 and still is. Not only that, no current laws actually discriminate against trans people. So what exactly are progressives fighting for in this case? Progressives do this with just about everything. From climate, to plastic straws, to women's pay, to the patriarchy. Progressives invent a doomsday scenario then pretend to be the ones who can fix it just so they can pat themselves on the back. You see, they are fighting for nothing other than to make themselves feel like saviors. They simply take a group they deem as lesser than them then claim only they, the mighty progressives, can fight on behalf of these people. But as you can see, it's actually demeaning, as progressives must put whoever they want to help into instant victim status and unable to help themselves. The same can be said for progressive cities that recently called for a ban on plastic straws. This does nothing to save the planet or anything else, but as I wrote early, it's easy to do, and that's what progressives are looking for. Easy and conspicuous fake solutions are all progressives are interested in. Progressives don't want to put in any actual work or research to solve a problem. That takes too much effort and commitment, and all they really want is the credit anyway. So what better way to achieve their objective than to pass some nonsense law? Laws are easy to pass, and once passed, the progressives can dust off their hands and pat themselves on the back, proclaiming that once again they've saved the world. That's why progressives are so keen on new gun control laws. The evidence is obvious that tougher gun laws have no effect on criminals obtaining or using guns. In fact, it's the opposite. But that doesn't stop progressives from wanting to pass new laws. And the reason is because it's easy. They can pass some silly law about background checks or magazine capacity, then claim that they've saved hundreds of lives. It's all just theater for progressives, and it simply feeds their need to be the world's savior but without doing any actual saving. So the next time you see a progressive claiming that the world is going to end, stop and take a closer look. Chances are they're just trying to set themselves up to once again feel they are saving the world, at least in their own minds.